Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to a plane we haven't seen in a while. This is my dad's Hangar 9 Carbon Cub. It's a half scale. Last time we saw this, I put the engine on, and then when I tried to put the cowl on, noticed that the engine stuck out too far. So I've been looking at it and decided to come back to this again because I can't believe how many views those initial videos got. And I had a couple people message me and say, well, what'd you end up doing? So I'm going to be releasing the series of videos showing the process of making what we decided to go with was an adapter. So that way we don't alter the plane drastically if my dad decides to sell the plane or whatever he decides to do. You could just unbolt the adapter that will hold the cowl, and then you could put the right size engine in it if you wanted to. Or whatever you chose to do. We're past the point of being able to return the engine because I took so long. And anyways, he would like to have that big engine on it. That thing looks so cool in there. And instead of cutting out the firewall and shortening it, I can't talk, because the bottom here is your throttle servo. There's a little box about yay big that you're supposed to epoxy to the bottom of here, and then your two servos go on for your throttle and your throttle cut, I believe the other one is. So if I cut the firewall, move it back, that's not going to work. I'm going to have to refigure out how to do the throttle servos and everything like that. So that, and I was worried about, I'll show you the pitch here. It's got the thrust angle all figured out for you. And I thought the easiest way to do it would be to flush mount the engine like I had it. And what this is here, this is kind of a mock-up, and these are my templates. I'm going to take some plywood, light ply I should say, and build an adapter. That's just the only modification I'll have to do to the plane is drill the holes. I plan on doing like 1, 2, and then probably 3, 4, and then repeat it on the other side. It's what I kind of figured. And what I was going to do here, this is kind of a mock-up with my templates of what I was planning to do. It's going to have these little ribs here, and you'll see the original holes. I'm actually going to leave those in there. Like I said, I want to try not to alter the plane. That way, if someday you want to go back to the way it's supposed to be done, you can put the smaller engine in and you'd still be able to bolt your cowl. I'm just going to take some the screws and then just put the screws in, because as you can see, the cowl itself has a bunch of screws in it anyway, so I didn't think it'd look too bad to have just a screw here. And then where I'll go to this one because it'll be easier to show. So what this is going to do, it's going to have the shape here. This is my template for here. I still need to cut out this hole because I still want this access panel here, just in case we need to get to something. But the top part's going to have these ribs that are going to be doubled like this, and then there's going to be another part that glues to the firewall. This will be a plywood block, and then it'll have one of those speed nuts or whatever it is in the back, the ones that's got the pointy things that once you tighten it down, it sucks up to the plywood and sticks in there, and you don't got to worry about it after some epoxy's applied. It'll be like that for good. And then these rib sections are going to be connected. There'll be a little outline here there'll be an attachment point from here to here, and then I'm going to balsa sheet it. That way it gives us a little bit of added protection that keeps the weight down a little bit and keeps everything all nice and stiff. The cowl doesn't really weigh much. I do not have a scale to weigh it, but I can't imagine that this thing weighs, I mean, look at this, it's like nothing. Maybe a pound or so, if that, even. I'm not good at judging weights. But that's what I plan to do for that. But that way you can still access that speed nut and everything. I'm gonna fuel proof it and all that stuff, so I won't have to worry about that. And I'm actually where the balsa, that balsa bridge here and everything's gonna be a point where I'm gonna get some of the monocoat, and then I'm gonna actually monocoat around here so that it matches the body of the plane as close as possible. This will allow to have the bigger engine on it. It'll be out far enough to where the actual cowl is going to be just past this seam line, so you shouldn't be able to see it. It'll go in just a little bit and give it enough of that push out, and then where the propeller and the spinner and everything, I figured it's probably going to be, it's going to be less than around 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit less if I remember right when I was doing my measurements. So it'll give that, well, get a finger in there for you. It'll give it that, it'd be one of those deals where I think if I wouldn't have told anybody I did it that way and I kept the cowl on, they probably wouldn't have even noticed that I did the work unless they own the plane themselves. Then they'd be like, that's kind of weird. Why'd you do 2 screws here by the cowl? So it is going to throw the fuselage off scale. It's going to be about 3/4 of an inch longer. But all the work you'd have to do in cutting this firewall, sinking it back in, reattaching everything, making sure you get your thrust angles and everything right. It's got the fuel tank in it already, and this fuel tank, like I said in the previous video, I'd have to go with a smaller fuel tank because, well, I guess I wouldn't. As you can probably see from here, there's that nice little instrument panel, and you can see that fuel tank is almost right up to it. So to keep the bigger tank, I would have to keep the instrument panel off of it, or go with a smaller tank. So figured the simplest solution would be to move the cowl out a little bit. This should be strong enough to be able to support the weight. Shouldn't have to worry about any vibration or anything. It should go on nice and tight. And like I said, the only downside of it is it throws your plane off scale. But this is an already built plane. I'd call it an ARF, I guess. All you had to do was attach the wings and do some minor stuff to it, put the landing gear on and whatnot, put the lights in the wings, but it's not like he's going to be taking this to any scale competitions to where they're going to whip out the tape measure and say, oh, wait a minute. And like I said, if I wouldn't have made the modifications and if I left it all alone, nobody would probably know the difference. The only thing is it's going to throw with the longer engine and everything, it's going to throw well, you got to adjust the center of gravity anyway. So it's one of them things, you got a more powerful engine. If you have to add a little bit more weight to go to the back or just adjust your battery placement or whatever, it's not a big deal. Just, you got to find your center of gravity anyway. So that's the simplest solution. It's probably not the correct solution, but it's one of them things where I thought I'd share it with everybody on YouTube since I'm going to do it. And if they do happen to run into this same situation we did to where you're like, oh, darn it, that's not going to work. This could apply to any plane, I guess, that the engine sticks out too far or else it's got a built firewall. If this was a I'd be more concerned if this was a plane that I actually built from scratch, a box of wood, and then I finally find out that I messed up the engine on it. But yeah, it's one of those deals. I figured I'd share that solution, and if it helps somebody someday, great. Or maybe they'll catch the video before they'll buy the engine, and they'll be like, oh, okay. I don't want to go through all that work of tearing the firewall apart. I'll just get the smaller engine. So anyways, I'd like to thank everybody for watching. And the next time we're going to be, I'll have all the parts cut out and we'll start assembling this fancy adapter. So I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.